A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. Imagine sitting in a crowded cafe, watching the endless parade of human drama unfold around you. At one table, a person berates a server over a minor mistake, their face flushed with indignation. Nearby, someone scrolls frantically through their phone, seeking validation through likes and comments. Across the room, another individual sits rigid with resentment, replaying an argument from days ago. You witness these moments and perhaps recognize something unsettlingly familiar. What if the source of this pervasive suffering isn't external circumstances, but something far more intimate, something we carry within ourselves like an invisible burden? Eckhart Tolle's A New Earth presents a radical proposition that humanity stands at the threshold of a profound transformation, one that begins not with changing the world around us, but with recognizing and transcending what he calls the ego, that persistent voice in our heads that creates a false sense of identity. This isn't merely about personal improvement or fleeting happiness. Tolle suggests that our very survival as a species depends on awakening from the collective unconsciousness that drives us toward conflict, destruction, and endless dissatisfaction. In an age where anxiety, division, and environmental crisis seem overwhelming, could the key to healing lie not in fighting these symptoms, but in addressing their deepest psychological roots? The ego, as Tolle describes it, operates like a masterful illusionist. It convinces you that you are your thoughts, your roles, your possessions, and your history. You become the successful professional, the struggling artist, the devoted parent, or the misunderstood victim. Each identity feels solid and real, but underneath lies a deeper truth. These are merely costumes worn by something far more profound. The ego thrives on comparison, competition, and the constant need to be right. It feeds on drama and finds ways to feel superior or, paradoxically, to suffer in ways that reinforce its sense of specialness. This false self creates what Tolle calls the pain body, an accumulation of emotional wounds that takes on a life of its own. Like a dormant volcano, the pain body lies quietly until triggered, then erupts with disproportionate force. You might find yourself overreacting to a minor criticism or feeling inexplicably angry when stuck in traffic. These aren't character flaws, but manifestations of old pain seeking to perpetuate itself. The pain body becomes addicted to suffering, unconsciously creating situations that feed its need for emotional turmoil. Yet beneath this surface turbulence lies what Tolle describes as your true essence, pure awareness, unconditioned and peaceful. This isn't a mystical abstraction, but something you can access in any moment through presence. When you watch your thoughts without being consumed by them, when you feel your emotions without drowning in them, you touch this deeper dimension of yourself. It's like discovering that beneath the choppy surface of a lake lies profound stillness. The path to this recognition requires what Tolle calls awakened doing, engaging with life from a place of presence rather than ego-driven compulsion. Instead of rushing through tasks while mentally elsewhere, you bring conscious attention to the moment at hand. This transforms even mundane activities into opportunities for awakening. Washing dishes becomes meditation. Listening to a friend becomes practice in presence. The quality of your attention shifts everything. Consider how this applies to the endless cycle of wanting that characterizes modern life. The ego constantly projects happiness onto future achievements or acquisitions. The next promotion, the perfect relationship, the ideal vacation. Yet when these goals are reached, satisfaction proves fleeting. You find yourself on what seems like a hamster wheel of desire, always running toward a happiness that remains just out of reach. Tolle suggests that this futility isn't a flaw in the system, it is the system. The ego needs dissatisfaction to maintain its sense of becoming, its story of incompleteness seeking completion. But what if contentment isn't found in adding more to your life, but in recognizing the fullness already present? When you stop believing the ego's narrative of lack, you discover what Tolle calls the power of now, a dimension of reality where peace isn't dependent on external circumstances. This doesn't mean becoming passive or indifferent, but rather acting from wholeness instead of neediness. The implications extend far beyond personal well-being. Tolle argues that collective ego, manifested as nationalism, religious fundamentalism, or corporate greed, drives the destructive patterns threatening our planet. Wars are fought not over resources, but over ideas, stories that different groups tell themselves about their specialness or victimhood. Environmental destruction stems from the ego's inability to recognize its fundamental interconnectedness with all life. Can you imagine politics, business, or international relations conducted from a place of presence rather than ego? What might become possible if even a minority of people awakened from unconscious patterns? This raises profound questions about responsibility and action. If suffering stems from unconscious identification with thought patterns, does this mean we should detach from caring about injustice or environmental destruction? Tolle suggests the opposite, that awakened action proves more effective because it arises from clarity rather than reactive emotion. When you respond to challenges from presence instead of ego, you avoid adding more unconsciousness to already difficult situations. Perhaps most intriguingly, Tolle proposes that this transformation need not be gradual. He speaks of sudden awakenings, moments when the veil of ego identification simply falls away, revealing what was always present. Yet for most people, awakening unfolds as a process, a gradual recognition and dissolution of unconscious patterns. Each moment offers a choice, to react from old conditioning or to respond from awareness. The key insight here is that awakening isn't about becoming someone special or achieving a particular state. It's about recognizing what you already are beneath the layers of conceptual identity. You don't need to improve yourself. You need to stop believing in the voice that insists you're inadequate. This shifts the entire spiritual project from accumulation to recognition, from becoming to being. How might your relationships change if you stop trying to get something from others? Approval, validation, security, and instead offered presence. What would work feel like if you engaged it as conscious service rather than ego-building activity? These aren't merely theoretical questions, but practical inquiries that can transform ordinary experience. As you consider these possibilities, notice how the mind might immediately construct objections or obstacles. This resistance itself reveals ego identification at work. The voice that insists awakening is impractical, impossible, or reserved for others. Yet Tolle's central message remains simple. The portal to presence exists in this moment, always available through the simple act of conscious attention. Perhaps the most profound realization is that you need not wait for perfect circumstances to begin this awakening. Whether sitting in that crowded cafe or lying quietly in darkness, you can practice the gentle art of watching your thoughts rather than being consumed by them. In these small moments of presence, you contribute to what Tolle envisions as humanity's great transition, the emergence of a new Earth, born not from external revolution, but from the quiet transformation of consciousness itself.